All right, fight fans, welcome to another edition of the Boxing Lounge with Jake and Abe. It's been a minute. We had some life changes going on. Abe moved from the west coast to the east coast here in North Carolina, only an hour and a half away from me now. And you know, with moving with the family, the baby, the military, it takes a while to get adjusted. But we're back and better than ever with another episode of the Boxing Lounge. And today we got a heavy agenda. We're going to try to get it covered. And so, Abe, how you been doing, man?
Good, man. Happy to do this again with you. It's been a minute, but man, we boxing is right back into the swing of things, man.
Yeah, boxing's back in the swing of things. You're busy. You know, you've been lately. You've been doing your around the curve. You've been interviewing Salem Urbina. You had a good interview with the coach from the Marine Corps boxing team down in
Mhm.
Jacksonville. Man, and I've been busy writing and interviewing Christy Martin. So NewYorkFights.com is leading the way in boxing news. And now
Mhm.
we got a little break to do our pod. So the first thing we're going to cover is your famous thing that everybody loves is around the curve. So spin us up on what's around the curve in the next few months, Abe.
On the curve right now, and right now, man, Teofimo Lopez and Cambosis. It seems like this thing is like a VH1 reality show. I mean, as Jay-Z said, it was all good just a week ago, and I mean, it was all good just a week ago with Lopez and Triller, but now it seems like Triller wants to take the fight to Australia, and Lopez is like, I don't want to go to Australia, and there's a whole bunch of mess there. So around the curve with that, a few minutes ago, a release was sent out that Oscar De La Hoya and Vito Belfort, right? The long rumored fight that was, is going to happen. Initially, they said in Vegas. Now it's confirmed. It's at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, September 11th. But this is the thing. It's a real fight.
Oh,
Real fight. Eight 2-minute rounds. At 180 pounds, plus 5 pounds, so they're giving a 5 pound leeway. And it's no headgear, like it's a real fight.
wow. You know, and Oscar's been saying that. So I expect nothing less from Oscar. So.
Yeah, so it's crazy. As we spoke before we went on air, Canelo and Caleb Plant. So they said close, right? It hasn't been officially announced. It hasn't been a press conference. It hasn't been a press release. So until that happens, I'm gonna just reserve any type of initial opinion on it or anything like that, because we've seen this happen way too many times where it says close, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it fell apart because of one little minor detail, and then you don't have it no more. So come back to me, not you, but these guys that are putting it out there. Come back to me when it's done, when it's a done deal. We got the venue. I mean, the venue initially was on that close story. It said for the T-Mobile, but I just saw Ryan O'Hara from the Ring posted that the T-Mobile's booked, so it might be at the MGM. So you see, like things are still are undecided. So until they finalize that stuff, I don't even want to hear anything about no Canelo Plant until Ryan Garcia, maybe he waits around to see what the IBF situation with Cambosis, and all of a sudden Ryan Garcia is from not ranked in the IBF to ranked number 2 or number 3, and then all of a sudden he's fighting for a vacant belt that Teofimo gets stripped for. So all of these things could happen. And then August 3rd versus Dipset versus Lox, right up my alley. They're gonna be on there. Uh, MGM, the Hulu room. It's already sold out. I mean, it's sold out in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I was just like, I told everybody, I said, there might be about 300-400 people that are gonna be there for the fight, and about 4,500 are gonna be there for Dipset versus Lox.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just as simple as that.
One of the better verses that we've had in recent times. So that's gonna be good. That's gonna be good.
Yeah, and right leading into that is a perfect segue, and I'm going to finish this off segment with this. Speaking of verses, shout out to Nika, right?
Yes.
She's got that YouTube channel, Knockouts with Nika, and she has a boxing enthusiast versus on her YouTube channel. So shout out to her. BX all day.
That's it. Yeah, BX is representing me, you, Nika, and she got a shout out from one of the top dogs in the boxing world from Jake Donovan. And when Jake Donovan mentions you, that's a pretty big deal. And I noticed that I reached out to her and I told her that what she's doing is going to be big and it's going to kick off because she's pretty much taking, like what Jake said, she's pretty much taking boxing Twitter and put it on YouTube, and that's your fan base. That's your raw and uncut, no script, no vetted through your editor. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun entertainment. So I'm glad she's doing that. And yeah, so a lot of things been kicking off. You got Joseph versus Usyk. So boxing is doing good, and even when things are signed, as you can see, we still in a pandemic, and it rears its ugly head every so often. So that played the Joshua, I mean the Fury Wilder fight. It played the Lopez and Cambosos fight. So even with something signed, we're still in uncertain times. So hey, good stuff, Abe. I appreciate the around the curve and the dates that are coming up, and it's going to be an exciting time for boxing. It's definitely going to be an exciting time for the fans. It's definitely going to be an exciting time for the writers. So that's going to be some good stuff. All right. So our next subject is the weekend wrap up.
Okay.
Showtime put on an excellent card with 3 excellent fights. One, which could probably go down as fight of the year, in Charlo versus Castano. And but we're going to kick it off with Ali versus Vidal, which I thought was a very, very good fight. I thought it was a close fight. Those two gave a good showing and stuff. And speaking of fighting in a telephone booth, those two fought, they put their foreheads together like 2 rams, and they interlocked horns, and they did not let go. It was an exciting fight. What'd you think about that fight?
Oh man, I thought it was a great fight, a great way to start the card. I was getting a little frustrated with Aleem because his corner was telling him, hey, in that outside mid-range, but he was listening to them, but then he would fall right back into it and get in the inside, he'd get into trouble like that. The judges probably saw more of a Dow on those exchanges than Aleem, and that's why they gave him the fight. But I personally thought that Aleem won the fight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I personally thought that Aleem won the fight because even on the inside, he found times to get around Vidal and counter him effectively, and he was fighting a very good inside fight. It was when they were separated that Vidal's reach got the better advantage of it, but I think he did enough to win that fight. I'm not mad at the decision. It was that close of a fight. So like I said, like I tweeted, I'm not mad at the decision, but I think Aleem deserved the nod on that one.
No, I'm mad at the decision. I'm mad at the decision because Aleem should have won that fight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He should have won that fight.
Yeah. So no, we agree on that. Now, this brings us to Roly. It was 7 days notice. 7 days notice, and the guy was 1 weight class higher than Roly, and it was an ugly win for Roly, but nevertheless, the fight ended in a knockout. Now the guy was game for 6 or 7 rounds, so he'd been taking the fight 7 days notice. Yeah, he showed to give Roly some trouble sometimes, but Roly, being the bigger puncher that he is, did what he was supposed to do with him, and was as ugly as it was. He took him out. You've been following Roly for a couple of years now, unlike myself. I started to catch on the Roly train now for about a year, but you've been there since the beginning. How legit is Roly? Can he capture a world title?
Let me tell you something. He's a puncher. So when you're a puncher, anything can happen. And you can be, perfect example, Deontay Wilder, right? You could be down in the cards every single round, but all it takes is that one punch and the fight is over. Nobody's going to remember what happened in the other 6, 7 rounds. All they're going to remember is that knockout, right?
Correct.
And with Roly, that's what it is. What you see is what you get. He's not gonna woe you with some fancy combinations or footwork or jabs or anything. I mean, he can jab if he needs to, and if he wants to, he can do that and implement that to his game plan, like he did in his previous fight. But he's got that raw power, man, and he can put people to sleep. And when you have that, you have an opportunity to beat any champion. In my opinion, you got to punch his chance.
Yeah. So here's my beef with Roly, because I'm a boxing purist. So for me, is everything's about the fundamentals of boxing, the application of what they teach you. So Roly's 14 fights into his pro career, and as you can see, wide stance, stiff jabs, pushes with his punches, opens himself up. His defense was not very good. At times he was flaring his hands. Uh, so for me, that takes away from me expecting him to contend with the Tank Davises of the world, and all the top dogs at 135, the Lopez's, and so forth and so forth. However, like you said, that's not indicative of his ability as potential to win a world title. And here's my this is what I do like about him. He comes to fight.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do. And he doesn't like anybody he steps in the ring with. He has a fighter's mentality, and I like that. I like that he's ambitious and assertive, and he calls out the top dogs in the division, and he tells you like it is. So confidence takes you a very very long way. Okay, and in the past, some of the non polished fighters have won championships. I mean, we start talking. Uh, I I saw an old clip of Jake LaMotta, and I saw it Roly. And by no means am I comparing Roly to the Hall of Famer Jake LaMotta. Not doing that. I'm just talking about the rough, the tough, the he's there to just demolish you. And it's not unlike unpolished fighters to win championships. We've had unpolished fighters with championships. So with that, with the knockout power, the aggressiveness, and that awkward kind of weird things that some people find it a hard time to adjust, I think he could potentially win a world title. Now with who, it's probably going to be the question. We'll see what happens. He called out Tank Davis. I don't think that fight happens anytime soon, and we'll see. We'll see. But it was an exciting fight, and can't take nothing away from him. He won the fight. Now that brings us to what everybody's been talking about, and it was a great fight. It was the fight of the week, and probably the fight of the year, which was Charlo Castano. A lot of people saw the fight going the way it went. A lot of people thought Charlo was going to take Castano to the bank, and then, of course, we got the controversy of the scorecard. And what are your thoughts on that fight?
So prior to the fight, I was on another podcast and for the big fight weekend, and I told them they were a little surprised when I said that it would go 12 rounds. There was a lot of people predicting a knockout. I just didn't see it. I saw enough of Castano's fights and Charlo's fights to know that the knockout wasn't going to happen to end the fight. That guy's a tough dude. There were some rounds in there where I felt that Charlo was more hurt than he was leading on to at the end of the fight. If Castano had just a little bit more punching power, he might have been able to take him out. And so it was a really good fight. I had this argument on Twitter with some folks that I know. They said, Charlo won rounds 10 through 12, clearly. I don't know what fight they were watching, but it wasn't clearly. And to be honest with you, I think Castano won round 11, which all three judges gave to Charlo. And if he wins that round in the cards, he wins the fight. It's as simple as that. And so I think that it was a good fight. If they fight again, I think Charlo does take him out early. Not early, but like mid-fight, mid-rounds. Because I think he will clean up his mistakes, like not going to the body. I think if he would have done that a little more, he might have been able to have those opportunities to take him out. But I think he takes him out, in the 7th, 8th round if they fight again. But here we go. IBF is saying this and WBO is saying that. So then what, right? I don't know. If they end up going their separate ways, it'll be disappointing. But we move on, right? We move on, and who knows? Maybe this gives Terrence Crawford the opportunity to move up and fight Castano for that WBO belt, since he's a WBO champ at 147 and gets first dibs if he moves up. So we'll see.
Let's see. So yeah, like you, I think the second round belonged to Charlo because he stunned Castano there. I didn't think Castano was gonna make it out that round, let alone be fresh in the third the way he did. Castano turned it on the fourth. He hurt Charlo in the fourth, and after that, it seemed like he was hurting him. They were both hurting each other back and forth. I agree with you. I think Castano won the 11th round, and so I heard some things that I didn't agree with, and some of the pundits were going around saying that we're too caught up in the scorecard. We're too caught up in the scorecard rather than focus on the fight. My argument is that fight was so good that it deserved a winner. Okay,
Correct.
it deserves somebody, whether it be Charlo or Castano, and uh, to have that card as egregious as it was, it to me it has to be talked about uh, because that's what happens. We're gonna focus on that card. I don't know why boxing again. I'm not going to accept the argument that this is boxing and we just have to accept that's we're not official judges and we don't know any better. But nevertheless, I mean, we always have that one guy that does that, or that one girl, woman that does that. So I don't know how they're going to fix it, but I believe this fight was that good that it needed a winner. Whether it be Charlo or Castano, because that's why. And that's what happens. Now, also like you, I would like to see a rematch. Okay, I would like to see a rematch. This fight is warranted. This fight deserves it. And but again, the IBF, the WBO, like you said, you didn't say anything that I could disagree with. So we will see. But I know that it would be disheartening to a lot of us if we don't get that fight again. Number one, because of the close fight that it was. It was very competitive. I think both of them deserve it. And number two, because one of them deserves to be undisputed because they put it all on the line and they prepare. And we got robbed of another undisputed, fighter. So we will see. But hey, that was a good card over the weekend. And all right, so now this leads us to the big fight that's coming up on the horizon, which is Spence Pacquiao. Yeah. And I saw the press conference. They both were gentlemen. They both portrayed themselves respectfully. But we all know when they both get that ready, they're both going to try to take each other out. What do you think? What are your thoughts on how that fight's going to play out?
So first, I wanted to make a point on the press conference. I thought that I think Errol Spence got the first taste of what a fight with Manny Pacquiao means. First, he was sweating like crazy on that couch, right? And so you could tell. And then he says, "Yeah, I'll be ready for that fight in October." I was like, "October? The fight is in August, like next month. What are you talking about?" But I get it. Live TV. You got international media and people like watching. So he was nervous. I get it. But this is only like the beginning. Like this thing is gonna be massive. So it's gonna be massive in Vegas. Just gonna be there's gonna be people all over the place in Vegas that weekend. Mm-hmm. In regards to the fight, man, it's interesting, right? Because this is gonna be the first time Errol Spence is gonna fight somebody in a while that isn't going to be intimidated by his size or his power, at least from initially. I think that with the Danny Garcia fight, with the Mikey Garcia fight, I think those two guys were intimidated and at some point just didn't want to get hit and get knocked out. So they played it safe for the rest of the fight, which led to Errol Spence winning by unanimous decision. I think that with Manny Pacquiao, he is going to push him to the limit. I think the only one, Sean Porter, was the only one that didn't play, that forced the action, didn't play him safe. And you saw how close that fight was, razor thin. So I think Manny Pacquiao is going to press the issue. Now, can his motor sustain putting that pressure the whole fight? Who knows? I mean, he kind of burnt out on that Thurman fight on the second half. Not burnt out, but he did fade a little bit, and that allowed Thurman to get back in the fight. But that could have been Manny not thinking that Thurman would be there late in the fight, and that he could, he could afford to do that, right? With Spence, he knows that he's the type of fighter that is going to be there all night and is going to have that engine. So I think he's going to prepare for that a lot more than he has in the past. And it's going to be a great fight. It's kind of hard to say which way he's going to go, but definitely going to be keeping my eye on how they prepare and leading up to it, and see what happens.
Yeah. So, and we've had this conversation before. I'm not a fan of Manny Pacquiao fighting anybody right now. There's just too many good fights to be made, and because he's Manny Pacquiao, he gets clout. Deservedly so. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. 8th division world champ, and he's a legend. So when Manny Pacquiao says, "I want to fight," then people move earth and mountains to get him a fight. So it takes away from other fights that we want to see, that want to be made. But however, in this fight's defense, those fights aren't getting made for whatever the hell the reason is. So we'll take it. We'll take Pacquiao, and we'll take Spence. I am gonna say that Spence understands the magnitude of this fight. Spence understands what's riding on this fight. Apparently Keith Thurman didn't understand what was riding on that fight. Look what happened to Keith after that fight. I mean, he went from being the top dog at welterweight to can't catch a fight now. It's been almost 2 years. Okay, and so I don't think Spence wants to be in that boat. So he understands what he has to do. He understands what's on the line. He understands he has to retire Manny Pacquiao once and for all. Send him back to go be a senator, a basketball player, a singer, whatever Manny Pacquiao decides he wants to do in retirement. Spence needs to make that happen. Not because I don't like Manny Pacquiao, but because I believe Spence's legacy is riding on him. Okay, he does not want to. It's Manny Pacquiao. It's a good hit on your resume, but he does not want to fall into that realm of the Keith Thurman issues. Okay, or what happened. So I think he understands the magnitude. So I think he's going to do everything possible to win this fight. On the flip side of that, Errol Spence is not Keith Thurman. And Manny Pacquiao will know that within the first 3 or 4 rounds of that fight. He's not going to be able to bully him. He's not going to be able to push him around. Spence is solid. Spence can box. Spence is strong. And Spence can punch. So a lot is going to be said. And to your point, Keith Thurman, even although he got knocked down in the first round of that fight, in the second half of that fight, I thought he did enough to either, I could see him winning 1 or 2 rounds in his favor. I mean, winning by 1 or 2 points in his favor, or it being a draw, or Manny Pacquiao winning. So I wasn't upset either way. I could have saw it going either way. So to that point, we're going to see how Manny Pacquiao's stamina ends up with later in the rounds. So I believe, and this is just me, based it on everything I just said, that Spence wins this fight. I got to do a little bit more analysis to see if it's going to be a knockout or a decision. I think I'm leaning towards a decision because Manny doesn't get knocked out. And one time he got knocked out, he just ran into a punch of Juan Manuel Marquez. I mean, that was just physics. That's what happened. He was coming in, Juan was landing, and boom, knockout happened. But I think Spence walks away with his victory because he understands the magnitude of what's riding on the line. But nevertheless, I think we're going to get a great fight that weekend. Vegas is going to be packed out. The betting is going to be packed out. The riders are going to be all over this. It's going to be a great event.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, man. But to be honest with you though, I don't think even if Spence loses, right? Let's say Spence loses by a really narrow decision, and Pacquiao ends up retiring and becoming the president, right, of the Philippines later on this year or something. I don't think that it damages him as much as it may have with Thurman, because with Thurman got, not only did he get knocked down early, but he also got like super hurt like in the middle of the fight too, off that body punch. And so there was things there, and Thurman had he had some questionable fights leading up to that, right? Spence hasn't had that. So I think that people will give him a little more room So I don't think it would be as devastating as the Thurman.
That's a good
But-
point. That's a good point. You're right, because Thurman has some questionable fights. The Sean Porter fight, the
Josecito Lopez.
Josecito Lopez fight. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, some questionable fights going into that. And then I also saw that when they asked Spence, so what's after Manning? If you win, what's after Manning? And he said Crawford. You still don't think that fight happens, right?
No, not at 147. I think if it happens, it happens at 154.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think these two are just going back and forth. And are you concerned that Crawford's just sitting too long right now?
No, because I think he's gonna, as much as Top Rank with the guys were like, no, he's not gonna fight Zepeda. I think he's gonna end up fighting Zepeda, right? And then they're gonna offer him probably an extension deal, to fight Josh Taylor, in Europe in the spring in front of 40,000 people. So, and offer him maybe $8-9 million to do so. So I think that'll happen. And then, if the Spence fight is there, it'll be at 154. I just don't see, but this is the thing though. I feel like if Spence moves up to, it's going to be a chain reaction, right? So Jamal Charlo is going to move up to 168. Jamel's going to move up to 160. And then Spence is going to move up to 154. So those 154 belts are going to be up for grabs again. But I feel like it's going to be the round robin again. It's going to be Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, and Spence fighting for the 54 belts. And
Yeah,
we're just gonna get all that again. So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We got a lot of stuff happening in that world. We got a lot of stuff happening in the 160, the 165 world. So like I said, boxing, it's I think it's in a good place right now.
Yeah.
We got a lot of young hungry stars, and we got the Berlangas, the Zayas. We got Benavidez out there looking. He's coming soon. The talks of Plant, Canelo, and so forth. Joshua Usyk coming up. So something for the second half of 2021, we got some things to be excited about. So, okay, so on this end, I had the pleasure of interviewing Christy Martin, and you let me know that there was a tournament happening in this area, and I thought, that this was this is a huge tournament, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is sponsored by the WBC at Title Boxing. They got right now, I talked to her yesterday, they got close to 400 fighters registered for this. The WBC donated a beautiful belt. It looks like short of the hardware, it looks like a real championship belt. So it's going to be a good, exciting time. Christy Martin got a lot of things going on with her promotion company. So she has Christie's Champs, which is a nonprofit, because she does a lot of work in supporting victims of domestic violence, or should I say survivors of domestic violence. And so she does a lot of advocacy work in that area, and talking and bringing awareness to domestic violence. And then her promotion company, which is Christy Martin Promotions, does a lot of pro cards. There's a pro card August 28th here in Myrtle Beach, which I think I'm head out there and I'm going to cover that. So she does it all. So she has a lot of exciting things happening in or around her camp, and it's good. It's refreshing to see that because for all intents and purposes, arguably she put women's boxing on the map with her aggressive style. She kind of became the first woman superstar in boxing, and then later on right around then we had the Lucia Rikers and the Layla Ali's and the Ann Wolfs and so forth. By the way, which all four of them are inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it was good to see that she's still involved in boxing the way she's involved in boxing. It's good to see that she's taken her experience as a fighter and putting it to her promotions and taking care of the fighters the way she's taking care of them. She works to the bone, and overall, she's probably one of the sweetest celebrities or athletes that I've ever interacted with. Very humble, very nice, open to talk, and she's an open book. And she'll let you know when something's off the record that she doesn't want us to cover. And no, we're gonna have a good tournament, and she's doing good things in the boxing world. And so yeah, man, that's what's going on with her.
Yeah, man. I had heard about it. He's from Camp Lejeune. They're going to be making that trip up there and competing in those tournaments as well.
Great.
So you'll see some Marine Corps representation in the ring there this weekend. And the coach that I wrote the story on, Coach Joe Higgins, he will be up there with the Marines in their corner. So it's going to be a great weekend. The WBC, sponsoring it. WBC Cares is a really good program. They do a lot of charitable things around the world. So definitely shout out to them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the president of WBC Cares, I think she's going to be here too. So yeah, it's going to be a big thing. I'm going to do a lot of talk. I'm going to make my way around, try to talk to as many people as I can. Talk to some of the fighters, and we should be a good time. So that leads us into the state of women's boxing, and I kind of want to talk about that because I think now, in a long while, we got some genuine superstars in women's boxing. Okay, we got Salem Urbina, who just fought for a world title. Unfortunately, she didn't walk away with the nod, but she's always game. You got Amanda Serrano, Clarissa Shields. You got Sinisa Estrada, Marlon Esparza. All these great fighters, and we run into this with women's boxing. They just don't get the nod. It kind of, you happen to see it if it happens to be on the card. I think the Zon does a better job of promoting women's boxing than most of the other platforms. But why is that, Abe?
Well, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? I think Heather Hardy out of Brooklyn has been beating the drum on that for a long time now. Ran tickets right to sell. She sold about 5,000 tickets herself. 5,000 people wanted to just come see her, and that she knew of. And so, you're hustling and bustling, and here you are fighting for a world championship, but you're having to do that. It just doesn't make any sense. And they're not getting a cut out of that. They're trying to fill the arena in an effort to be billed higher in the next event. And that's it's kind of unfair. Not kind of, it is unfair to the women. They put in just as much work as the men. They still get underpaid. So it's unfortunate that that's the situation. I don't know what you can do to fix that, but all I would say is the women just need to continue to put forth the effort, keep performing at a high level, unfortunately keep promoting themselves, and then hopefully at some point they'll start getting paid what they should get paid.
Yeah, I mean, because they put on I don't think there has been a women's match that I've seen and not been excited and not been wild. Like, oh man, that's a good match. They always put on good scraps. And you got Amanda Serrano knocking at the door at 31 knockouts. You got Clarissa Shields, who's won multiple championships in different weight classes. And then the end result, and the sad result of this is they end up going to MMA. And Clarissa said something that was very controversial a while back, and she said boxing doesn't deserve me. And while I ruffled a lot of feathers, I mean, can you blame her?
Yeah. So I mean, she's getting another fight under that PFL, like I think next month.
Correct.
So they're keeping her busy, they're keeping her paid, and they're probably paying her more than what she was getting for her undisputed fight.
Correct. So we've lost. Not lost because they always come back and do a little boxing, but if the UFC grabs them, we lost them.
Yeah.
If the UFC grabs them, we lost them. Like we did with Holly Holmes. So she was one of the first ones to make that transition, and she did well for herself in MMA, and then went back in that same boat. So hopefully, I want to make some noise on it. I'm gonna try to interview some more. If they accept my invitations, some more female fighters, and keep beating that drum and do the same. Okay.
No, and I would add one more thing. a lot of times as well is it's hard for them to find opponents.
Yes.
So the pool
Correct.
of women fighters isn't as deep. So that's where you run into lack of fighters, because a lot of the fighters, the women fighters are international. So they're from Mexico, they're from South America, they're from
Japan.
overseas, Japan. And so, sometimes it's an issue, like a visa issue, to try to get back in the country, to try to get in the country for a fight. So there's all these things that come around, with that. Now, hopefully with this, with these Olympics, maybe, they'll get a nice little boost of people going pro and adding to the population, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, and it's not just in the ring. There's a lot of women doing a lot of work outside the ring too.
Yeah.
So you got to, like you said, knockouts with Nika. You got in the ring with Christine. She's in Japan right now with the USA boxing team as a coach. You got there's so many of them, and they bring quality content. They're talking about boxing. They're
and Tierra Brown, she just joined USA Boxing as a coach.
Yes,
because she can't get a fight, so now she's coaching.
Yeah. So she's coaching. So yeah, so we'll see. But you know what, ladies, keep doing the work, keep grinding. I appreciate it. I know Abe does, and NewYorkFights.com does too. We'll keep an eye on that stuff and try to give them nods every opportunity I can. So Abe, that kind of wraps up our episode, our comeback episode. I think it was good. It was a good one. You have anything you want to close out with? Any news or anything that the fans may not know? Any books, TV programs?
Yes. So first, I want to, before I intro these books, shout out to Kyle Serafine and Andy Comack from Hamilcar Publications. They just dropped this one right here, Low Life Memoir of Jazz, Fight Fixing, and the Mob. Got to get to that, by Charles Farrell. And then I also got this one, came out, Damage, by Tris Dixon. Still trying to finish this Four Kings book, and then I'm going right into that. I'm very excited about those two books. They were just released in the last couple of weeks, so I'm just dying to get into those. And then outside of that, I had an interview with Jose Uzcategui yesterday over the phone, and so going to be putting something together for that in the next week or so, and just excited for the summer fights. Marine veteran Michael Coffey is fighting next Saturday against Gerald Washington, so that's going to be, it's always exciting to watch heavyweights. And then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in August. In the September, I don't know if you saw, Oscar Valdez is coming back.
Yes, he sure is.
And that card is going to have Xander Zayas and Gabe Flores Jr. G Squad. So that's going to be a really solid card. But the fight that I'm most interested in on that card, and I should be talking to him hopefully soon, is Nakatani versus Tito Acosta. Mm-hmm. That is going to be fireworks. Sure. Definitely excited about that fight at 112. So we got some good fights and events, and let's see what the fall winter brings for us, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, August 17th, Christy Martin has her documentary coming out on Netflix. So be on the lookout for that. Check it out. She has a very, very interesting story, and so yeah, we're doing some good things. Hey, it's always been a pleasure. We'll keep knocking out the park and keep representing NewYorkFights.com.
Yeah,
doing our thing, and look out for us. I write at NewYorkFights.com. Abe writes at NewYorkFights.com. You can follow us on Twitter at the Bronx Bomber. Where you at, Abe?
At Abe G718. And before I forget, shout out to the main man, Michael Woods.
That's right, Big Mike. Yeah, and you can follow us on Twitter. We always post our articles on Twitter, and like I said, we are covering things, and we are doing things at NewYorkFights.com, covering stories that other people are not writing about. So aside from your usual boxing updates and schedules and fight predictions and analysis, and giving you our takes on what happens, we also bring you stories like that of Coach Higgins and you know. Wilfred Benitez and Christy Martin. We bring you other stories like that, and we got a guy named Glenn. Glenn always brings you some historical stories. So check us out at NewYorkFights.com. Check out our Twitter handles. Check us out, Abe and Jake, at the Boxing Lounge with our. We try to do this thing once a month. Twice a month if we could get it. Once a month. We both got babies. We both got day jobs. So our schedules. All right, Abe. To the next one.
Yeah, man.
Take care.